Good morning, and welcome to the first step, where I invite you in to our Canvas studio here to join me in my morning practice and prayer, which my morning practice is prayer, just getting in touch with that each morning so that I can head off into the day with a better state of mind, hopefully a peaceful state of mind. So this morning I was up at 3:30. I woke pretty early, and I came down here to the studio and turned on our heater so it would be nice and warm, but then we had another circuit break. If you watched Jason's show yesterday, we had a circuit break, so hence the hat and trying to stay warm here today. So I welcome you in. Yeah, so I woke up quite early and I attempted to fall back asleep, but it was that moment to wake and start journaling and do this practice. So I actually went off, turned on the heat, went into the sanctuary where I had some quiet, and that's where I invited in the spirit. Yeah, I invite that light into my mind in the morning so that I can become a host of spirit and not the hostage of the ego. And if you watched on Tuesday, I've been journaling about the top 40, those top 40 thoughts or things that are repeating in my mind that I notice daily, like, oh, there it is again. It might be an attack thought on another. It might be an attack thought on myself. It might be a responsibility thought. It can really show up as anything. But they're the repeating things that, the deceived mind, the ego will try to bait me with each day and just continue to send those thoughts in. So part of this morning has been tuning in and actually getting in touch with either the lesson for the day or a section from the course, which I've been drawn to another section for today. But first I was drawn to when I was thinking about this changing the top 40, to actually reprogram my mind. I thought of the review section, and it's back in the Course in Miracles. It's a review 6, which is part 1, review 6, and I always loved the reviews because they were great reminders for me. And as I would do the lessons, this is a review, I think 181 through 200. It's a review section, and you're reviewing that idea. You're replacing whatever thought is in your mind with that idea. And I love the reviews, and I reread them quite often because it reminds me to practice. And that's all I'm trying to do in these mornings is remind myself. And so I'm just going to read a couple lines here. And it says, each of these ideas alone, meaning the lessons 181 through 200 in this case, would be sufficient for salvation if it were truly learned. Each would be enough to give release to you and to the world from every form of bondage and invite the memory of God to come again. And that was my topic today, was memory. As I've talked about on other shows, is handing everything over to spirit, my dreams, the thinking mind, all of it. And memory and perception are so closely linked that I've always had this, this memory that people thought was good. It's an okay memory, but I could recall numbers, dates, names, pretty much anything I could recall relatively easily. The problem was I would recall a lot of the pain and the memories and things that would occur or seem to occur in my past. And that's why I turned to drugs and alcohol, because those numbed my senses so that I didn't have to think like that. It was like the wrong use of that line. We don't have to think like that anymore. It was, I wouldn't be thinking about those memories. I could suppress them easier. Certainly when I got into opiates and things like that, it was a complete numbing. And I always thought it was a curse to have a memory that I could recall events and so specifically and bring myself there like vividly. And so when I started to read the Course and I got in touch with some of these sections, I was very intrigued by the idea of the right use of memory. So anyway, that's how it starts here. And then this idea back to the top 40, these thoughts that are recurring. This line here is great. Permit no idle thought to go unchallenged. So I'm not just going to let these idle thoughts, these top 40 that are actually stealing my peace to go unchallenged. If I notice one, deny its hold, and hasten to assure my mind that it is not what I would have. Then gently let the thought which you denied be given up, in sure and quick exchange for the idea that I practice for the day. When I am tempted, hasten to proclaim my freedom from temptation, as I say, this thought I do not want. I choose instead. This is the choose again moment. When those thoughts come in, I can choose again. And there's so many good ones in this section. It can be, but myself I crucify. All these things, I want the peace of God. Whatever it is I can replace that thought with to return my mind to the right mind. So anyway, that was a little practice. I have a bunch of bookmarks today because when I started thinking about memory, one of my favorite sections, which is the present memory, was one when I first read it, I was like, oh, present memory. I was sharing with Nicholas these things I say often, and I say the word ultimately a lot. And I'll say, yeah, ultimately. And then I catch myself saying it. And he has one that he says, and we're always saying, we're repeating these words. And so I looked up synonyms to it. And a synonym to ultimately is presently. And I was like, whoa, because ultimately is like, oh yeah, ultimately at the truth. But it's the same thing as presently. And I was like, it was like just radical for me to even consider that. Like, so I started to say it in a few times, like when I would say ultimately, like put it somewhere out. But when I said presently, it brought it so close. It was like, oh, presently, the choice is present. And this is even with memory. This idea that memory is past is not even true. So this whole section is amazing. And I'll read some of it here. You know, the miracle does nothing, all it does is undo, and thus it cancels out the interference to what has been done. It does not add, but merely takes away. And what it takes away is long since gone, but being kept in memory, still appears to have immediate effects. It's like this is the remembering, or when I talk about resentments, you know, when I'm doing that stuff. And even in 12 steps, resentments is to refeel over and over. So I'm bringing back those memories into my mind and refeeling them, rather than putting the cause at present. The world was over long ago. The thoughts that made it are no longer in the mind that thought them and loved them for a little while. So this is telling me I actually love those thoughts because they're keeping my concept of myself together. The miracle but shows the past is gone. And what has truly gone has no effects. Remembering a cause can but produce illusions of its presence, not effects. So in the second paragraph, why would you cling to a memory if you did not desire its effects? So even the prayer here can be when these things come up, where is my desire? What am I truly desiring here? But I'm clinging to this. This is a choice. And this is what it says. Remembering is as selective as perception, being its past tense. Its perception of the past as if it were occurring now and still were there to see. And this is probably my favorite line in this section. Memory, like perception, is a skill made up by you to take the place of what God gave you in creation. So now I made up memory. Like I made it up and I'm using it for my own purposes of sleep. So now I can actually turn this around. I can hand over my memory to the Holy Spirit, to Jesus, to JC that I call him in my journal and in my mind. So this is radical for me. It's like, now I can take this thing that I thought was a curse at one point, and I can remember all these things with sufficient effort and so forth. I can actually take that and turn it over to the Holy Spirit to be used, as he'll tell us here. And like all things you made, it can be used to serve another purpose and to be the means for something else. It can be used to heal and not to hurt, if you so wish it be. So this is the turning over of my memory. And now, what do I want to use my memory for? What will the Holy Spirit? It's not even up to me. Nothing employed for healing represents an effort to do anything at all. So now that I've employed my memory for healing, I don't have to recently have had these experiences of trying to recall things and realizing the strain it puts on my own mind. When I'm trying to stay in a constant state of prayer, why am I possibly trying to recall things like with sufficient effort? It's like, let me remember that. Let me try to remember when I can just ask. And what would you have me? If I'm not hearing it, then it's not for me to be searching for. It is a recognition that you have no needs, which means something must be done. It is an unselective memory that is not used to interfere with truth. And then the fourth paragraph here. The Holy Spirit can indeed make use of memory, for God himself is there. God is a memory within my mind, so now I'm just using my memory to get back to that. Yet it is not a memory of past events, but only of a present state. You are so long accustomed to believe that memory holds only what is past, that it is hard for you to realize that it is a skill that can remember now. So this is my turning over. And I write it in my journal. I wrote it in this morning. I ask the Holy Spirit to use my memory. Help me to use it to remember now, so that I don't have to use it for any of the other stuff. It's only to remember this moment. So then, I have a couple other things I wanted to read here. This is from the Two Worlds section. This is the present. This is the ultimate, the present. And when the memory of God has come to you in the holy place of forgiveness, you will remember nothing else, and memory will be as useless as learning, for your only purpose will be creating. So this is just showing me that even the unlearning of the world, the undoing, we want to unlearn what we think we have learned. I actually want to forget to remember. I'm forgetting to remember better, not using my memory for what I would use it for. And then it was funny, I came across a few of these other lines. I'll search the Course when I hear a couple of lines like, forget not. And then I'll put it into our ACIM.now website, and you put quotes around it and you put the word, and then you'll see where it is and it'll show up. And I put it in, and this showed up, and this is actually the same paragraph that I started the first step show with. Came full circle. So this is actually from the attraction for love, the attraction of love for love. Yet his memory shines in your mind and cannot be obliterated. It is no more past than future, being forever always. And here's the line that I did in my journal this morning. You have to but ask for his memory, and you will remember. This is the ask and you shall receive. This is the problem in the answer section. Are you specifically doing what the Course asks? Nothing can be more simple to ask and you will receive. Am I doing that? This is what I need to remind myself in the morning, to do it. To ask for these memories, ask to be repurposed. Yet the memory of God cannot shine in a mind that has obliterated and wants to keep it so. For the memory of God can dawn only in a mind that chooses to remember, and that has relinquished the insane desire to control reality. That was the line I talked about in the first show when I talked about the relationship to the first step. Even though the show is about the first step of the day, the first step in recovery, where I came from, is letting go of control. You, who cannot even control yourself, should hardly aspire to control the universe. So even this, that my memory is part of all of it. So I write these things. I ask the Holy Spirit to use my memory to help use it to remember now. So then practically I say, what is it? How do I want to use this in my day? And then certain lines from the Course come to me in the morning. And one of them is one that I have on inside of my front cover of my reprogramming of my top 40. These are the Holy Spirit countdown. And this is the when I meet anyone, remember, it is a holy encounter. As I see him, I see myself. As I treat him, I treat myself. And as I think of him, I think of myself. This is that line I wrote in the back. What is it? What thoughts am I having that God would not have me have? And then what it says here is never forget this. For in him I find myself or lose myself. So this is what I want to be reminded of. This is how I'm going to remember the now. This is how I'm going to practice forgiveness in the moment. So in my prayer in the morning is, I ask that my memory be used for this. And I need this today. I need it every day. But certainly today I have a few anticipations of encounters. I'm waiting for a few of the guys on my work site to show up that haven't shown up. And letting go of that resentment and working on that. But remembering this when I come into that encounter, that okay, I'm coming to the Christ, I'm coming to myself. So as I see him, if I'm already anticipating and I have any type of resentment built up, I'm gone. I need to clear that out. I need to say my prayer. And I need to go in it with this. And this is my prayer to remember. Use my memory for this. Not for remember what he did to me 2 days ago, or he hasn't shown up for a week and it's cold out there and we haven't been able to do certain things. All that stuff, all the rationalization can be let go for the right use of memory, which is help me to remember as I see him, as I think of him, give me the thoughts. Let me let go of this part and let me hear what you would have me see. And that's going to create my experience. This is what I want. This is the same thing happening. So then I have that prayer. And when I said, okay, what else is there for me to remember today? And all the stuff that came to me focused on the same thing. And it said 3 different ways. I put another bookmark here. And this is actually from the littleness versus magnitude section of chapter 15. And it's saying the same thing. But when I read these things, the repetition of the course, it reminds me that this is important. If it's being written down 3 times in 3 different ways, just to keep pointing me back to, hey, remember, I've trained myself, and now I need to train myself correctly. Call forth in everyone, including my HVAC guy, only the remembrance of God and of the heaven that is in him. For where you would have your brother be, there will you think you are. Hear not his appeal to hell and littleness, but only his call for heaven and greatness. Forget not that his call is yours, and answer him with me. God's power is forever on the side of his host, for it protects only the peace in which he dwells. Lay not littleness before his holy altar, which rises above the stars and reaches even to heaven, because of what is given it. Whew. So again, these mornings are like a thank you for joining me in the prayer to remember this, because by speaking it, this was that line I said a few weeks ago. Pay attention to my mind. Be astonished. And tell other people. And then it reinforces it and I can start to practice it more deeply. And then again, the same line in a different context. The state of sinlessness, all pointing to the same thing in my own mind. Look once again on your brother, not without the understanding that he is the way to heaven or to hell. He is my salvation. As you perceive him, but forget not this. The role you give to him is given to you, and you will walk the way you pointed out to him, because it is your judgment on yourself. So I look up a word, forget not, and it points to all the same things. It's pointing me back to my mind and what I started with. This thought I do not want. I choose this instead. And so this is my prayer for today, the right use of memory, and to be able to, transform what I think memory is, that I think it is the past, and this idea that I have to sufficiently use my memory for something specific or to recall things or events, and to fully hand it over to Spirit to use it how he would have it be used. I have this experience before I go to sleep, and I try to maintain focus as long as I can, and then I'll start to drift into the dream world, and I'll notice as I go into a dream state, into sleep, that I'll start trying to organize things. I'll start trying to control whatever the dream that I'm in. I'm not totally lucid, but it comes, and then I'll be like, oh my God, I'm actually sleeping. I don't need to do any of this, and I can let it all go. And even that is a nice reminder for me to, in this dream, I can let go of what I think should be done and ask what I should do. This other part that came to me as I was reading this this morning, this idea of memories is in the afternoon, sometimes I'll rest, especially when I wake up at 3:30, I'll take a nap. And in those moments, I'll be drifting off to sleep, and these memories will come to me. And it's amazing. I can't quite put it to words. It's almost impossible to put to words because they're feelings. They're vivid memories, but feelings that are almost passing through. As I'm falling asleep, not even fully asleep, I'm like aware of it. And it's amazing because it feels good. It feels good, but the memories aren't like of good memories. They're of feelings of feeling out of place, like I'm not of this world. It's like I'm allowing those things and I see that as an answer to these prayers. Use my memory to release all this stuff that I've suppressed. 20 years of addiction and all that stuff has been used to suppress, these things, and I need to release them, to feel them, to train my mind in the correct way. I've also started a little Facebook group. It's called The Last Step, the name of the show on Sunday. And I asked some people there, I guess it's a closed group for now. And I've asked the members there to share if they wanted to hear about anything on the show. And I had a few people write back last night, and I'll probably address some of those on Sunday with Frank. Frank will be joining me on The Last Step on Sunday from Zurich. He's back in Zurich for a while, so. But Rich sent in a message, and he said, hey, could you just see what comes through, comes through my brother, about this idea that the opposite of addiction is connection. And he said, I've heard Russell Brand say it, and even David say it. And so when he said it, I was like, that's beautiful. And so that was last night, and this morning I was in meditation, and it came to me, and I was like, because I've heard the same thing. It's like in addiction, alcoholism, addiction to anything, any substance, any person, anything really, is this addiction to the outside world. So the opposite can be thought of as connection. It's actually the solution. It's the solution as well. And I think it was actually Russell Brand I heard say once, and I don't know if he was re-quoting someone else, but all addiction is the inappropriate desire to be at one with God. And you've probably heard that before, that, and even in the Course it talks about the misdirected miracle impulse, that even people that are strong addicts or alcoholics or whatever they're addicted to, sex, whatever it is, have a strong call for God, but it's just this misappropriate desire. It's like going in the wrong direction. And then connection, I always say, is the appropriate desire. It's like turning that energy in the right direction. And I often told people that even when I started going to 12 steps, I went to 3 meetings a day. I actually replaced my addictive behaviors or whatever it was. At the beginning, I had still to weed out a few things. I started playing hockey 5 times a week. I was waking up at 6 o'clock and going to the rink, and I had to let go of those things. It was a process for me. But I started using those things as well. But the point, I think, is that as long as the prayer is to be with God, actually to be with Spirit in all moments, everything's going to happen to channel those misappropriate desires or whatever it is to go in that way. So I do think that it can be thought of as an opposite. Addiction is to the outside, and connection is my filling that hole. That's all addiction is for more, is trying to fill that God-sized hole that you've heard with something outside myself, relationship, people, whatever it can be. And so the answer is, in the 12-step book, it says we have one solution. And the solution is a higher power, my understanding. And yeah, so we'll see what else comes in. Maybe I'll bring that one up with Frank as well. But I would love for anyone that's watching, if you have anything that you have questions about any of the practices I've talked about in the past, or you watch another show and something's unclear, or you're interested in hearing about anything, I'm wide open to that. So we'll see what happens with the show. I'm starting to get some inspiration to play some clips as Jason does. I sat with him yesterday after his show, and I was like, oh, this came to me, and this, like certain things that have helped me shift my perception and have helped me even, clips on YouTube. So we'll see if that happens. If it does, we'll probably still be at the same time, but just on the other player on our morning show schedule on Spiri.ai. So yeah, that feels good for this morning. I got my prayer in place for all my holy encounters today. So I'd like you guys to join me in that. And we'll see you Sunday possibly, and if not, next Tuesday. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week.